Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hello, welcome back. This is Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. Dennis Rimmer here, and with us today from the Toronto area, we have Theo Tams. Now you might recognize that name from almost 12 years ago now when Canadian Idol was on the airwaves, and I wish it was still there, but it's not, so that's life. We have to carry on. Theo Tams was a winner in 2008, announced in September of 2008. And let's get to today right now. Theo, how you doing today? How's things considering current situations and all that?
I'm doing well, Dennis. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no trouble at all. So, yes, do you mind going back to 2008 and discussing that Canadian Idol journey a bit before we get into other subjects?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy to think that, like you said, it was almost 12 years ago. It's in some ways it feels like a lifetime ago, and in other ways it feels like it was yesterday. It was, for me, it was an incredibly positive experience. It definitely got me to where I am today in my career, opened a lot of doors for me. But it was more than just a musical thing for me. I was going through a lot of things personally, and so yeah, I just back on that time of my life. There's a lot of transitions going on. So I look back with fond memories for sure.
And it was in February you had your audition. Now, apparently, from what I've been told, that was quite a nerve-wracking experience to you. So you had to maybe change your shirt more than once?
Yes, exactly. It's so funny. I will never live down being the super sweaty guy on Canadian Idol. You know what? It's really funny, and this kind of goes into like the behind the scenes stuff of being on a reality TV show that I think a lot of people don't realize is that I remember being in line about to go see the judging panel, and there was probably about 5 or 6 people ahead of me. And I remember saying to one of the producers, I was just like, look, like I'm sweating like crazy. I just want to go change my shirt. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, go change. And then I changed, and I went back in line, and then the one producer came up to me and he's just like, I'm really sorry, we need you to change back into your other shirt. Oh. Apparently for like continuity or something like that. And then I realized, and that was kind of my first moment of being like, oh, I see. Like, like you want to make a TV show. So that's why the first thing that I did when I got into that room was I just lifted my arms, and I was just like, if I have to go on TV with sweat stains like this, then I'm going to do it on my own terms. So,
yeah, the behind the scenes stuff. Now, where exactly was the audition? Where did that take place?
So it was at I can't remember what hotel, but it was at a hotel in Calgary. The original auditions, that's what a lot of people don't realize too, is that before you get to the celebrity judges, there's probably about 4 or 5 rounds that you go through. The first couple of rounds are just kind of in front of, music teachers or, some type of music professional in the city that you're auditioning in front of. And then the third and fourth rounds are in front of producers. Before you get to the celebrity judges, you audition in front of like the main producer of the show, John Brunton. So yeah, there's a few phases before you even get to that point.
Now we're talking with Theo Tams, or Theo Tyson Tams, Triple T, we'll call him, going back to his Canadian Idol days, and then we'll get to what's going on now. So did you hear other people audition, or were you separate from them?
No, the first couple of rounds you actually go in groups. The first group that I went in was a group of 5, and you all just kind of take your 15, 20 seconds, maybe, some are even less, and you just step forward and you give them a little bit of a snippet, and it happens very quick. It's, you 2 yes, you 3 no, and then off you go to the next round. So you don't have a lot of time to really get your point across.
What did you think when you finished? Did you go, oh gosh, I blew it? Or, wow, I'm better than these guys and I know it?
The first couple rounds, I was pretty confident. in the celebrity judge panel with the judges that you see on TV, that one was a little bit more nerve-wracking, just because I was in there a long time. I mean, when you watch my audition on TV, it looks like I was in there for, 60 seconds, but I was probably in there for closer to 25 minutes. And there was a lot of chat going on. They wanted to know why I hadn't auditioned before and where I had been and what made me want to audition now. So I felt like I was going for a job interview.
I guess it was in a way.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of when the doubt started to creep in my mind. Like, am I going to make it to the next round or not? Because I knew that I could sing. I just wasn't sure if I was going to be someone that they wanted to, to kind of essentially be a cast member of this show.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's like a casting audition at the same time as a singing audition.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why they call it show business, because it's not a business without the show, and you can't have the show without the business. So.
Yes, exactly.
So, Canadian Idol, we're talking with Theo Tams, and like he said, he doesn't mind going back to those days, but we got a lot more territory to cover. So even before Canadian Idol, you grew up in Lethbridge, did you?
I grew up close to Lethbridge. I grew up in Coaldale, which is about 20 minutes from Lethbridge. Was
your schooling in Coaldale, or did you go to Lethbridge? Or
from kindergarten to grade 9, I went to... I was in Coaldale, and then high school I did in Lethbridge.
Okay, so you had to bus or drive or whatever. I guess you couldn't walk.
Yeah, no. I mean, by high school I was driving, so
that's good.
I was good to go by then. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what else? You were involved in music? Were you right from a young age, or did that come later on for you?
I mean, I was raised in like a pretty strict Dutch Christian family, so music was always kind of part of childhood growing up. Both sides of my family, like my mom's dad, my opa, is a fantastic musician. He was a really brilliant organ player. My dad's dad is a really great singer. Both my sisters are wonderful musicians, so music was always in the family in some aspect. It wasn't for me until probably high school that I started to just take it a little bit more seriously and really start to figure out if there was ways that I could, parlay that talent into a career.
Now, did you have any other interest? Did you read much as a kid, or were sports involved, or were you mainly music-oriented kind of a guy?
A little bit of both. I played a lot of soccer. Soccer was kind of my sport. Mm-hmm. And then water skiing, wakeboarding, snowboarding. I spent a lot of time outdoors. And then outside of that, I would say writing. Writing is kind of how I got into music. I was kind of writing poems and short stories from a really, really young age, probably 7 or 8 years old. And then when I got to be a teenager, around 13, 14, it was my dad who kind of said, well, why don't you ask one of your sisters who were great piano players if they could help take these poems or these short stories and try to create songs.
Really?
So that's kind of how it started. That was my intro. And of course, my sisters at the time were, 17 and 19, and they were like, we don't want to do this. So they showed me where middle C was on the piano, and I just tried to figure out the rest myself.
Oh, right. So that's it. Here it is, kid. Dong. Take it away. It's up to...
Yeah, that's it.
Do you think people are born, like my wife is a organ keyboard player and a singer. She's wonderful, and she's been trying to teach me how to sing for I don't know how many years, and I just don't have it. I mean, and she's, no, you got that note, that was good, do it again, and I can't. And so then we quit, and then next year we'll come back and do it again. Are people born that way, or can you be trained, or is it both?
I definitely think that it's a combination of the two. I think that some people are just born with more of an ear for tone and an ear for music. I've kind of been also going into teaching ever since Canadian Idol ended. And I've had some students that walk into their first lesson and I almost borderline think that they're tone deaf. And 2 or 3 years later, it's insane to see how far they've come. So I definitely think with proper training, it can be something that anyone can work on, for sure.
So if I start now, maybe when I'm 4 or 5 years from now, when I'm like 80, I might be able to sing a song.
Well, we will do a duet, you and I.
That'll be something. Yeah, back to Canadian Idol and the winnowing process, or is that the word? Yeah, that's the word. It's sort of like sports, right? If you're a soccer player and you're 8 years old, you're better than everybody else who's 8 years old, but then you play against 9-year-olds and maybe you ain't so good anymore, but then you get a bit better. And so there's a big pile of people at the bottom, and then when you gradually get past everybody else, then there's a few at the top. So I guess maybe the singing and music business kind of is the same in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a certain sense, there always is an element of competition. And I don't think that you'll find any artist who says that they're at the top of their own game. I think that you're always kind of trying to continue to hone your craft and you're really only in competition with your own creativity. So, or at least for me, that's what kind of keeps me sane, is that there is so many brilliantly talented musicians out there, and a lot of them won't be heard. So I think the fact that I, have been able to, over the past, decade, really start to build my own audience, I feel super privileged of that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'm just trying to sort of get to a point, and I can't remember what that point was, but we're with Theo Tams, grew up in Coaldale, Alberta, went to high school in Lethbridge, Alberta, and how did the idea for you to go on Canadian Idol as a tryout, how did that even start? Where did that gestate?
It's actually funny because I was on the 6th season. I had watched, or at least was aware of, obviously the previous 5 seasons. And it was something that I was dead set against being a part of for a long time. I was just like, that's not for me. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to find my own way and my own path. And so the year or two before Idol, when I was probably like 19, 20, I released a record that I kind of self-produced at a studio in Lethbridge with a bunch of local guys and local musicians. And I kind of, tried to put in the groundwork myself, just playing shows in Lethbridge and Calgary and trying to gig around and, sending out these demos to, dozens of record labels across North America. And I just literally felt like it was 1 step forward, 3 steps back. And then finally I was just like, you know what, why don't I just try it? And even if I just make the top 200, hopefully I can hustle when I'm there and build some contacts. So for me, it was not, I never let my head go to the fact that I could, potentially win this thing. It literally was just, let's get out of Southern Alberta for a bit. Let's try to clear my head, build some business contacts, and try to, just move the needle a little bit.
And one of the earlier winners on, I guess I'll say winners, sometimes don't kind of like to use that word when you're talking about art because there's nothing you can measure it against, I don't think. But anyway, Kalen Porter was one of the earlier winners. Did you ever run into him when you were younger?
I didn't before I was on the show. I met him after I was on, maybe the year or two after I had won. We were at some CTV event together. But it's interesting. I mean, he's from Medicine Hat. I'm from Lethbridge. We come from very similar families and backgrounds. So, and obviously there's only 6 people in the country that know what going through that entire experience is like. So, we hit it off really well and kind of connected on the fact that we have very similar paths even outside of that show.
That's good. And we're talking with Theo Tams. You know him from Canadian Idol, but that was 12 years ago pretty much now. Canadian Idol, you were the winner. A single was released in September of 2008. And then what happened?
Oh, gosh. You want me to give you 11 years of Theo Tams history right now?
Yeah, in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, exactly. So I released my debut album, Give It All Away, in May of 2009. I toured the country a couple times after that. Once solo, once with Matt Dusk. 2010, I got to go to Afghanistan to sing for the troops. Then I hit the studio again. I took some time off to kind of connect with who I was, before I was even on that show. Released another album in 2014. Same cycle, took some time away, went back to work, traveled a bit, and then released my last album at the end of 2018, so about a year and a half ago.
And starting with the Canadian, did you make any money out of that Canadian Idol release, the single?
I made a bunch of money after from touring mostly, from touring and merch. But the contract that you sign is a pretty intense contract. So the amount that I would have to sell in Canada to recoup, the amount that they had put in, that they're legally obligated to put in to invest, was just a number that was going to be next to impossible to meet. And honestly, I met wonderful people at Sony Music Canada, but it was 100% an arranged marriage, in a sense.
Right.
I mean, I certainly wasn't super interested in working with them. They probably felt the same about me. But at the end of the day, we had a 2-year contract that we had to, stick with in order to obviously avoid any type of legal ramifications from leaving it. So I think that we both tried to make the best of what we could within the constraints of that contract. And for me, I think that was the hardest part, because obviously I want to take the momentum from winning a show like Canadian Idol and just kind of hit the ground running. And then to feel like you don't necessarily have a team that really sees your vision, yet the clock is ticking. I think that was the most difficult part of that creative process, for sure.
And now, of course, 11, 12 years later, the music industry is like upside down and sideways and over, under, sideways, down, like the Yardbirds used to sing. It's completely different. I mean, do you have a label now that you're still with? Is that Warner Music?
No, I was with Warner. And this is the thing. I mean, artists are getting tossed around from label to label like never before in the history of the music industry. Major labels really don't have that as much pull as they used to, simply because you can download recording software and you can spend a couple $100 on a good mic, and you can spend a couple months in your basement and you can produce your own track and get your own track on Spotify or Apple Music, or SoundCloud or YouTube, and you don't need them to market you anymore. You can do that yourself. So I think their role in this game and on this playing field has become a lot less. I'm currently working with a company called Slate Music, who acts a little bit more as like a music incubator. So there's funding there and there's investment there, but really they're just trying to give us the tools and the resources to kind of grow as artists at our own pace. And I find that being able to maintain a certain element of authenticity, you kind of need that space.
And like you said about doing it yourself, then that how Justin Bieber started, did songs in his bedroom, put them on YouTube, and next thing you know, he's all over the world. So, what I do here with this is I have a little device that makes the phone call for me, and my cell phone device here, which has 1,637 hours of storage remaining. That's what I recorded on. Send it off to one of our millennial kids who puts the openings and closings together, and there it is. It's up and running.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't need...
You're up with the times.
Yeah, that's right. So Theo Tams is with us. You know his name from Canadian Idol, but he's been out and about ever since. What was it like going to Afghanistan in that time?
You know what? Still, and that was 10 years ago now. This summer that'll be 10 years ago. But still, to this day, that is 100% one of my career highlights. It kind of came out of nowhere from my management team at the time. And I think we found out maybe a week or 10 days before I was meant to go. So it happened very quickly. But it was an incredible experience. This is when Camp Mirage was still in Dubai, or just outside of Dubai. So we flew from Toronto direct to Dubai, went to Camp Mirage, spent a couple nights there, and then we flew in a Hercules from, and a Hercules is the biggest plane in the Canadian military. And we flew from Dubai to Kandahar, the airbase there, and it was surreal. I mean, I had to wear like the vest and the helmet, and I just remember sitting in this plane with probably close to 300 soldiers who were being deployed for a tour in Afghanistan. A lot of them, this was their first time. I was 25 at the time, or just shy of my 25th birthday, and a lot of these soldiers were younger than me. And I'll just never forget being in that plane for that plane ride over to Kandahar, and just you could just feel that there was nerves and there was anxiety, but there was just this overwhelming sense of pride. And especially now with everything that's happened with the pandemic, I think that we have a lot of reasons to be proud to be Canadian with overall, I think, how we've handled this. But it's been, that I think was one of the moments for sure for me, that it just, being Canadian just felt so, I was just so proud to come from this country.
Well, my brother-in-law is in the Army, and he's still in the Army. He was in Afghanistan for 2 tours, so he might have seen you perform, or might have even been on that plane. Who knows?
Oh, that's crazy to think about, eh? Wow.
Yeah. So Theo Tams is with us. What's your daily routine these days? What do you, not necessarily because of the pandemic, but just in general, what kind of a routine do you have?
Right. I mean, that's kind of the thing, I guess. Like, when you're a working musician, your routine is up for debate a lot of the time. I'm lucky right now because I'm in the creative portion of the record cycle, so I'm spending the majority of my days and evenings in the studio writing new music and trying to get some music ready to release later in the summer, hopefully July or August. It was going to be earlier, but obviously everything kind of got pushed back.
Right.
So yeah, this is really the time where I'm really thriving, and it's been the last 6 months just spending a lot of time in the studio. I'm working with a new team of producers. There's some artists that they kind of find that one producer that they really like, and they jam with them their whole career. Mm-hmm. I try to switch it up every project. I feel like it just kind of keeps me on my toes and keeps me creatively intrigued. So yeah, it's interesting and it's exciting to hear the stuff that's coming out and coming up. And I'm stoked to share it.
And Theo Tams is with us. The music business, the music industry, what was the hardest lesson that you had to learn, good or bad or in between?
You know what, I think, and still to this day, I think the biggest roadblock for me is walking into industry meetings or meetings with potential partners and team members where they still only see me as a talent contest winner. And that, I think 12 years later is something that is it's difficult and it's a bit annoying. I feel like I've more than proven myself over the past 12 years. But it's also not something that comes as a complete surprise. When you look at someone like Kelly Clarkson, she's going on, I think, close to, 20 years after she was on, or, maybe 16, 17 years after she was on American Idol, and she still is being asked about being on American Idol, even though she's, won a bunch of Grammys, and she has a talk show, and she's a coach on The Voice, and she's done all these things, but that American Idol badge or brand will always be attached to her career. So, and for me too, it's no different. So I think it's just a matter of really learning how to wear that badge in a way that's not going to be a detriment.
Well, I guess it's like an actor being typecast as, I think of Jethro from the Hillbillies, Beverly Hillbillies, who said it was great while it lasted, but I couldn't get any work after that. And it seems to happen to a lot of people. They get stuck in this one thing. Well, maybe we can keep working on it, Theo, and you can get your own talk show in a few years.
Yeah, you never know. I'm open to all the possibilities.
Theo Tams is with us. We have to wrap things up now, but where can we find your music these days? I think you must have a website. Everybody does.
I do, yeah. You can go to theotamsmusic.com. Obviously, everything is available on all the streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. I'm super active on my socials. It's me that you're connecting with directly. It's not a team member. It's always coming directly from me. So hit me up on Instagram at Theo Tams Music or on Facebook. I'm around.
That's good. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll let you get back to your daily routine, and we'll keep in touch. Maybe we'll check in next year at this time and see how things are going.
Sounds good, Dennis. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.